9, day 9 of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence against women and girls. As we always say in a true hope for her fashion, we cannot do this work alone. So we know that what it takes is that all of us, it's our call, it's our responsibility. All of us have that action to call to action, if I may put it. So we cannot do this as silos. And that's the important word I want to pass this morning. We can only do this work as a collective. And when we speak with one voice as a collective, then our voices will surely be heard. And when we gather here in this mornings, for others it's afternoon, early evening, depending where you're joining us from around the globe, know that it's your call as well. And in this platform, what we hope to achieve at the end is to ensure that we learn from each other. We are able to share the knowledge, because in our different countries, communities that we represent, we are going to be able to share what has worked, what has not worked. So we do go through the transitions of learning, unlearning, relearning, and we become empowered. And as empowered leaders, you are then able to not only elevate yourselves as leaders, but you'll be able to empower the communities you serve. So it is a good morning, a good afternoon, and good evening. I welcome you once again to day 9, where we look at the role of the media. And today with us, I've just looked in another panelist. We have Roomby Chakanza all the way from Zimbabwe. We have Catalina Morales joining us from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. We have Violet Onbaca joining us all the way from Kakamega, Kenya, and Farie Jules joining us all the way from Harare, Zimbabwe. And I pay homage. I am Zimbabwean first. And I pay homage to all my Zimbabwean sisters that this fight we cannot stop. We have to keep raising our voices. We have to keep beating the drum. We have to walk those streets. And thank you again, Roomby, for sharing. I did see that campaign. Well done, and kudos to you all. So this morning, ladies, I'll just kind of go real quick through the housekeeping. This is a panel discussion where there's 4 panelists. We have 5 questions that we have set aside for you. Panelists will be able to respond to the question within 2.5 minutes. You have 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes at most to answer your question, the question that is posed. We do ask that everybody mutes so that we can focus on the individual that is speaking, so that there's no background noise or echoing. And it is our utmost that as we go through the first three questions, we'll take an intermission break. At that point, we will take in 2 or 3 questions from the audience, if there are any. Then we'll move on to the final session of the discussion, where we'll pause and have 2 questions. Now, the questions will be looking at 5 areas: raising awareness, breaking the silence, obviously. We'll also look into advocacy and mobilization. Thirdly, we'll look at holding the perpetrators accountable. How do we do that as people in media, whether you're in television, radio, or other? There is a way that you can certainly reach out to those. And, you know, as we say, media plays a pivotal role to combat the violence against women. In case you didn't know, you do play a pivotal role. And you could be the catalyst for change. But we need to somehow come to where we can do better. And the 4th thing, we'll be looking at what are we challenging the harmful norms through media. And then finally, we look at providing resources and support. How do we do that? Challenging challenges and ethical considerations. So I will take the order of our panelists would be Catalina, then we'll go to Roomby, then Violet, and then we'll also have Farie give us her contribution. So it will be in that order. So the first part, we are raising awareness, breaking the silence. Now, has experts in media, whether you're in radio or television, media, as we know, plays a crucial role in combating sexual and gender-based violence, one, by raising awareness, advocating for justice, and shaping societal attitudes. Media highlights stories of survivors and exposes the prevalence of SGBV, encouraging public discourse. At least that's what we hope. Through campaigns, documentaries, and articles, media informs audiences about the causes, the effects, and the signs of sexual gender-based violence. Now, when it comes to media, do media outlets provide accurate and reliable information? And are they reporting on the actions and responses of government institutions and communities to address gender-based violence? Would like to hear your take.
Okay, so I think that sadly, media in general is not reporting absolutely veridic and complete information. Media in general is sadly, again, is generally owned by private factors. So much of the information that is being shared through media is being filtered by the interests of the private owners. So that's a reality that we're dealing with. But on that same note, we need to understand that media is only 60 to 70% the content that the media outlet itself is sharing. We also have the content that is coming from the advertisers, that is coming from the private sector, that is also supporting the survival of media. And in this, when I mention this media, this group of media is pretty much every single media that is existing, not only the ones that are privately owned. Even the public owned have input from private sector. So when it's time to think about how media is actually helping raise awareness about the different changes that we need to do to protect girls and women, I think that we also need to put in consideration the advertisers and the things that media is also showcasing that is not exactly the media content, but it's more, again, advertisers. I think that's where we really need to start thinking about media and how we can help the advertisers and the media, the content that is coming in, to go back to understand what are you doing and the kind of things that you are providing in terms of commercials, in terms of advertising, billboards, and etc., that are or not supporting the respect and the care of women and children. Because media, again, is doing as much as it can with the filtering that it's under with the private owners, but it's also part of something else beyond media to filter and accept or not the different advertisements that we are receiving. And I'm talking about simple things like, for example, commercials that come in for media, and they're put in the middle of documentaries. Many of them end up using the woman as an object. And that's totally against whatever the documentary is about. So we need to consider that it's only 70% that it's in power of the media, that still the media, it has to filter out that content through the private owners. And on top of that, it's media outlets are kind of tied, their hands are tied when it's time to filtering or accepting or not the advertising that is coming in, that it's against whatever the media might be trying to work towards.
Wonderful, thank you. And to piggyback that, so we are saying there's 70% of that. 70%. So
60
we
to
have to take
70%.
into consideration, the people that pay for the advertising. Well said. And to piggyback on that, Roomby, what is your take? We need Roomby
Greetings,
to...
everyone.
Okay.
Greetings, everyone. I hope that you're all doing fine. Yes, of course, it's an interesting conversation. And just looking at the role of media in terms of raising awareness at 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. So we see that media has got a crucial role as it contributes to actually heightening awareness of GBV as a violation of human rights that actually affects society as a whole. So awareness campaigns have actually helped to rally communities to take action against GBV, and media outlets can actually amplify these voices. So in other words, we are trying to say that media plays a crucial role in ensuring that good ethical standards are adhered to. But however, we are noticing that sometimes when stories are being reported of victims, they're sensationalized. They are very sensitive sometimes. They don't protect the dignity of survivors, their families, and also communities, as well as confidentiality, which plays a crucial role. And for some, with the use of media, they are in it for business. Like, let's say people are given money. They just do it not because they want to help people, but they're doing it because they want to look for money from abroad, look for money from the well-wishers so that they carry out campaigns. And in those campaigns, you will notice that if we have people who are reporting about such initiative social campaigns, they are not educated enough. By that, I'm just saying they are not educated in that aspect of handling social campaigns, because everything works with a strategy. How do they strategically communicate such issues? You will notice that even the word gender-based violence itself, it may not be well known by those that are suffering the most. We have people in marginalized communities, people in rural areas, the underprivileged, the people who do not have access to resources. And to them, it can seem like it's a phrase, or it's a term that is used probably for other things, not knowing that it's actually talking about how they are harassed on a daily basis, physical abuse, emotional abuse. So I think there is also lack of simplifying the language that is used to get to the people there. And then you also notice that even on television or be it on radio, we only have activists that are coming through from non-governmental organizations. And as they come through, sometimes you don't even see victims coming through to also say their story, to also tell their story. And it would be good to have the victim and the person, the perpetrator, also in-house to talk about the issue, so that, if justice is served, it also influences policy, it challenges the government to take a role in that, even the police itself to look at some of these issues. So we're saying we need to amplify survivor stories as well. So media outlets can provide a platform for survivors to actually share their stories, raising awareness and promoting social behavioral change. Thank you.
I like that, because we look at media, again, remember we say media plays a pivotal role as a catalyst. They're actually part of the solution. Not only are they raising awareness, but the role they play. And Catalina, we're going to come back to a point that she raised in our second session, because I want us to also, at the back of our mind, be thinking the way she presented that, how women are objectified, genderized in those conversations. So we move on to Violet, so that you can take off from what Roomby has just said, that there's so much more that needs to be done from a media perspective.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maria. My take is that, yes, media is a powerful tool in the fight against violence. As we know, it has been used and we continue to use it from the grassroots level to the urban, globally. And at the same time, I can say it's a double-edged sword, meaning, okay, it offers a space and opportunity for expression, and different opportunities for awareness creation. But at the same time, sometimes when you check the reporting, just like Catalina and Roomby has said, the reporting really sometimes gives the perpetrators opportunity or the abusers to attack women and girls. And sometimes I'll give, for instance, sometimes when we are having these walks and we are giving the media what we think should be done, during the reporting, you will realize that they are eliminating the real thing we are saying to protect the godfather in quotes, or sometimes even, those who have money are the perpetrators. And now because we are condemning it and it's going to on air, you find they are eliminating important aspects. And even in the reporting, when there is an incidence of abuse, you find that they'll report the incident, even the language sensitivity is not protecting the victim or the survivor. And it leaves a gap of now people blaming the victim. You would have done this, you didn't do this. And at the end of the day, we are creating more problems instead of creating awareness and solving. What is the solution? We are just telling what happened, but the media is not giving like the way forward. This should stop. It gives room for more abuse instead. And even you find, I'll give for instance, there is maybe you saw a case in Kenya where a woman was stripped and it was being all over, especially the social media. There is no restriction and accountability of what should be put up on social media and to what extent. So you find people are posting anyhow without caring. And there's the last conversation we had, I was talking about the Ubuntu. You are posting this person and someone said the dance of a mad person is only entertaining when it's not your own relative. So we will laugh, we will do what, we will talk about this victim, but what about her health, mental health? And at the end of the day, we see suicides. Instead of the media protecting, it's opening up or it's exposing the victims and the survivors to more abuse rather than the protection. So there is a lot that need to be done. Yes, the media is a great platform and a strong one to fight GBV, but there is a lot to do, even educating the journalists, just having educational sessions with them to show them what the reporting style, the sensitivity, the language, to ensure that the survivors and the victims are safe rather than exposing them.
That is a challenge that we are throwing out there to those that are in the media, that they have a social responsibility to do what is right. And yes, we understand that there are limitations. Yes, your hands are tied, but certainly you are changed. This is part and parcel of what you vouch for, the ethics. When you partook that decision to be in media, as a journalist, you were to serve by the truth and to report nothing but the truth, to see justice prevail. The question is that what we are doing? And Farie, give us your take on this situation. Can the media do more? How can the traditional and digital media collaborate to amplify advocacy messages?
All right, I'm going to take it with my experience as a media person and somebody that went through a lot of victimization. And it was right after a case of sexual harassment that happened in the workplace on me. And then there was also a case of child marriages that happened way before when I was only 16. I was only 15 going into 16. So my first experience with the media was the worst, and I was only 15. And the way it was conducted, the way everything was carried out, and the fact that they did not protect me. I just saw everything out there in the paper. And imagine you're 15 and you're reading about yourself and everybody's reading about it. When you walk in the street, everybody's talking about you, people that know you, people at school, nobody cares. And it exposed me to a world that wasn't a good world. And it made me cower in my little corner. And I kept asking myself, but why would somebody expose a child to such things? And for everybody to know a minor's name, even knowing a minor's face, it wasn't a good thing. But then growing up, I thought, well, I just put it at the back of my head and I just grew up and just, brush it off. Now, my second taste in media, having to be in media, but now being a journalist now, it became a bit harder because I felt like I didn't have control over my colleagues. I looked at how my own colleagues in the media space conducted the whole case of sexual harassment and the victimization that came after that. And when I look at the media space that is more on the traditional media, being the newspapers, I feel like they're more of the bigger vultures because they hide behind the pen versus somebody who's going to go on a mic and express themselves, and somebody goes in front of a camera and then says whatever it is that they want to say. And then the one that writes, they just type and they say, oh, well, at least I sold a paper. We got ourselves trending. Everybody's going to enjoy this one. Let the vultures and the hyenas dig in, whichever animal wants to dig in, let them dig in and have a field when it comes to a story like this. I feel like ethics, especially in Zimbabwe, they are not practiced, or should we say in Africa, they are actually not practiced at all. It's like ethics don't exist when somebody finds a nice story. It's like, oh, we found something nice. What's trending? We want to sell a paper. We want to be the ones that break the news. We want to be the ones that are going to see how people are going to react. They're enjoying the fiasco around what is happening, but they forget the victim. The victim's name is out there. The victim's face is out there. The victim's personal issues are also out there. Like, to get a really nice story, they take a very sensitive part about somebody and then they air it all there for everybody to dig in and enjoy. And I feel like with this, like what, I don't know who, is it Ruth or Monica? She did point out that it opens a door for victims to be further victimized, and the victimization becomes even worse. And it doesn't give you that protection that, okay, fine, it is out there. People are now talking about gender-based violence over and over again. It is no longer silenced, but it's, oh, there's something called gender-based violence. It's as if it's something to laugh about, not something to take note of and actually address this whole situation, and to make victims that are going to go through the same thing to be able to speak out and be comfortable enough to speak out in order for certain things to happen. And also touching on the issue of the advocacy, when men are talking about GBV, it's like, it's a woman thing. Oh, look at them. They're just being crybabies. They're looking for attention again. They should woman up. Then they turn around and it's, well, let's leave it like that. When a woman is screaming, oh my gosh, I'm a victim of A, B, C, D, it's like, well, let her be a crybaby about it. Let her solve her own issues with her little girls and wear her big girl panties, and they just don't care. And maybe it's because I'm really looking at the Zimbabwean media being the harshest. I don't know about other countries if it's equally as harsh as the Zimbabwean media. So, Maria, that's all I can say and contribute.
Wow, well said, and great nuggets there. Is the media doing enough? Again, I'm going to press on and say, are they doing enough, or are they actually empowering perpetrators? Are they empowering perpetrators? As we move on to looking at the challenges and opportunities, because all of you touched on those challenges that you're saying. And I wanted us to take a peek here. What challenges, and I'm going to start with you, Farie, then taking it back. What challenges do journalists face when reporting on gender-based violence? What challenges do you as journalists face as radio personalities, TV personalities? What challenges are you facing when reporting on gender-based violence?
All right. So when it comes to the challenges we face, is the resistance from the victims. The resistance isn't to open up. They talk about what's on the surface because they fear that we, the journalists, are going to run with their story and they get further victimized. And then there is that protection from probably a family member, and they become the barrier, or should we say a friend or the husband, whatever it is, they become the barrier of you having to get the story. And another challenge is, especially the victims, is for them to just speak. They're not comfortable. They're not in a comfortable space. They're so scared of what will happen next because they have seen somebody being dragged in the media, social media, stripped naked in a way that it makes them feel very vulnerable and scared that, okay, I'm sure I'm not going to, I'm not going to heal after this. Already I'm wounded, already I'm bashed up, and now I have to go to the media to talk about this. And what is it going to help, And most people always have that question, what is it going to help me? What am I going to gain out of it? But obviously the main thing that they think of is, how are people going to receive this? How am I going to work? How am I going to work around this? And how am I going to get out of this space of being further victimized, and also not having the same perpetrator come back and harm me, because we don't provide space for them as well. That's another thing.
Wow. Let's all take a mental note of that. Who are we protecting? Who are we serving as personnel in the media? Are we doing our role? Are we playing the role that we are supposed to? And moving on to Violet, what has been your take? What you see? Because again, being a leader, and you've been on radio, you've been on television, when it comes to sharing the reality of what is happening on the ground, what has been your experience, Violet?
Yeah, thank you, Maria. The journalists, the media people also need protection, because most of the time when they are reporting these stories, they tend, maybe they already have the story, but someone will rush to silence them, even want to bribe them. So they get at a point where they don't know, and sometimes the perpetrator or that person protecting the perpetrator will want to go and bribe the family. Let's say, for instance, it's a defilement case. They'll run to bribe the family, so that by the time you are reporting and the police and, like, for instance, the activists are there for this case, the whole family is denying. Now the journalist is also in danger. The silencing, he or she doesn't know what to do next, and the story is already out. So he or she also puts her life at risk. And also the misinformation. You're getting this story, the next minute there is this story you are writing. Now you find it's a lot of complication with the issues on violence story. And as a journalist, you get confused. And at the end of the day, maybe you are working on this story, then there is developing story which is confusing. You don't know which one is right. And the family has their own story. Maybe the activists have their own story. The victim has her own story or his own story, which gets, it can even affect the mental health of a journalist, because you go back, you have no support. Unless sometimes as activists, as civil society, we come together and we back a journalist, like when we are having facts. But just as I've said, when you reach a point where the information is not exactly what you wanted or what happened, then it conflicts. So there is a lot of silencing, the misinformation, lack of safety, and even the mental health of a journalist is very crucial, which most of the time they lack. They also have their own life to protect. And when they are not protected, when they have no one to shield them, no one to support them, it becomes so difficult to work on such stories, because you never know. Some of us, you will never know where we live, because you never know the stories we are writing, the work we are doing. You never know the next minute who is looking for you, because you have that story, and probably you might be having the exact story of what, or the first-hand information from the victim. But when the manipulation comes in, they are looking for you to distort the information. So it becomes so difficult, and they need our support, because the journalists and the people in media go a lot of stress, and they need a lot of mental support, and even support in writing and working on these stories. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you. So piggybacking on that, Roomby, as I come to you, how can the media in that case avoid sensitizing or sensationalizing violence whilst reporting effectively. Because we are told, and Violet made a good case, that, journalists and people on television, in the media, on radio, you are human. So we cannot assume that you're superhuman. But sometimes when you sensationalize the whole deal, which affects and impacts families, affects and impacts an individual, just because you want to get ratings, that makes us worry. So what can be done, Roomby? You're often on radio. What could be done that is positive? Because we're looking at ethical considerations here.
I think there's a lot of training that actually needs to be done to all journalists who actually report on such matters. Say, this is how you report on a story, gather your facts, and they have to be right. We're looking at facts, not just hearsay, not just what other people are saying, or not just rumors. Because what's happening is that you will find that, in case, if I may just talk about Farie is my work colleague, we work together. And, when her story blew out there, media even failed to protect her. And we had so many media houses that were taking up on that story as if they had heard that story through first-hand information. Because it was just there on social media, each and media house would just take up that story. They try to spice it up for the sake of likes, like she was saying. They end up using probably your pictures from the past. You're just posting, maybe you're at the beach, you're at a swimming pool, your pictures, they'll take up on those pictures, and they start now saying, no, it definitely has to be this person who is the bad one in this whole picture, because look at how she is dressed. Maybe she's putting on a tight dress, and she's looking good. She's putting on an evening dress. She was wearing that at an event. So people started using that against her. So media failed to protect her. One, the media house where we all work, the media house that we work for, I think it failed to protect her. And number two, other media houses, I think it all comes to ethics as well, because people are doing it for the sake of followers, for the sake of growth of their pages, not because I think our environment is now toxic, such that people, they give in to stories that, are scandalous and all that stuff. So I really feel that we need training as journalists. We need a lot of training to be done. We need to be held accountable as well. And we need an advocacy so that actually influences policy. The government itself, it has to have a say in everything that is done. For other people, I think they get to the extent of even suing those that, those that misrepresent facts, because at the end of the day, you're affecting somebody's life, you're affecting somebody's future. And then another challenge that I also faced, and also talking about mitigating those challenges. Now we have the use of technology. I think with technology and artificial intelligence, within the blink of an eye, you can actually research first on how to handle stories, research first on how to handle, and even carry out surveys. We've got WhatsApp channels with the icons for polls to conduct polls. You can actually ask of the number of people who are emotionally abused, and I actually discovered that a lot of people are actually going through emotional abuse. So you can make use of that, and you have verified statistics that you can work with, and it saves you the time to move around the streets. But you have got these fans, these followers of your radio station or of your media outlet. You can also engage those people to also take part and participate in polls and surveys, give them questionnaires, and then within 2 minutes you would have your answers and facts there. But there's some, like I was saying, there's some areas that are misrepresented because of lack of resources. So that's another challenge, lack of resources. We are not able to tackle issues in other areas that are marginalized communities together, because you won't be having fun. Sometimes you do it out of passion and you do it out of love. I remember the month of November, I was just writing up stories to do with mental health issues for men, because I actually discovered a gap there, that people are not even talking about men. I started visiting men around and just hearing their stories, and I tried to amplify their voices, but they are also shy to say their real names. So I was actually using fake names, talking about their stories, because they don't want their voices to be heard, like in real time, and they don't want their faces to be seen, but they've got stories to share. So I think the more we teach people to be able to speak out, we'll be able also to gather our facts properly, and also to offer counseling as well to victims. It's good to offer counseling, and also I think also provide hotlines as media companies, as journalists. If we gather hotlines, it's our duty to get together information, and information that can help audiences. Like you were saying, we're not only reporting things, but we're also changing social behavior. We're also changing the way society feels, and we are also offering solutions. So if we come up with hotlines for where they can actually get help, come up with counseling numbers, and so that you can also get in touch with people who are actually offering free services at the end of the day. Sometimes these services, they come at a cost. So lack of resources, lack of training, I think we still need funding to actually keep those issues.
Thank you. There was so much to unpack in that answer, and I kept hearing training of the journalists and the resources. And basically, we understand that journalists have specialized, they've gone to school for it, but there's no problem in retraining and relearning, because there's so much that we need to understand when it comes to dealing with issues, especially pertaining to sexual gender-based violence against women and girls. And Catalina, you've heard it from other panelists when it comes to various challenges that as personnel in the media you face. And I've got a two-part question for you in this case. In terms of portrayal of women in the media, how are women portrayed in the media, and is that contributing or perpetuating or even combating gender violence? So it's how we portray women's stories, how we portray these incidences. Is it one contributing to where it's perpetuating or combating gender-based violence, or it's actually, a bit of both? So what is your take with that?
Yeah, thank you, Maria. I would say that it's a little bit of both, because this is the situation. So there are many organizations that, thanks to all these articles and all these documentaries and all this research that journalists do, end up having enough information to start working on campaigns. The education that Roomby was talking about, the training, the bringing awareness to a specific problem, all these journalists have already raised some kind of attention, right? So these campaigns coming, and this is amazing. So these campaigns are portraying the woman as it should be, or at least in a moralistic way, right? And that's amazing, right? So we have that part in which we have initiatives in which women and children and girls are being portrayed in a proper way, let's say it like that. And then we have the other side that is still using the woman as an object, that is still using children, like honestly children, and portraying them in a way like they were already grown women, and using some kind of erotism around them. And it's sadly, like, it's actually kind of disgusting to say it out loud, but that's the reality, what's happening, right? They're using very young ladies to try to attract attention to different products and services. Now, what's the real problem behind that? Because we have, yes, a wonderful part, these organizations that are taking initiative, and then we have the other side. The problem behind that is budget. Because let me put it this way. Let's talk about Procter & Gamble, that is using extremely young ladies to portray the wonders of their shampoo, Palmolive, right? So that's amazing, and everyone is obsessed. They have a budget of $250 million per semester, versus an organization that has an entire year budget of $2 million, and it has 7 campaigns and 10 campaigns to talk about the different challenges that women and children have, versus these Procter & Gamble that has $250 million for just 6 months. So when we think about the funding behind it, how much money can 200 million, how much media space and reach can 250 million buy versus 2 million? Yes, women are being portrayed in a better way, but we don't have, the biggest challenge is that we don't have budget to compete against the amount of advertisement, the amount of initiatives, of filtering of the news that these big organizations can do with 250 million versus 2 million. That's my take.
Well said, well said. That, when we look at the playing field, it's not fair at all. You're looking at who's got the biggest chunk right here. And when we talk numbers, so if one is 250 million, hypothetically speaking, if there's 250 million set aside for advertising and portrayal of where women are objectified, where girls are being used in ads which could be inappropriate, and versus the 2 million that has to stretch itself, where we are talking of social impact, we're looking at real stories in real time and trying to do the best we can with the little resources. Then we can see the uneven playing ground. But the question then we pose, the question that we pose was, these are challenges that are in real time. And I'm still with you, Catalina. I want to hear from you what you think could be done. How can media outlets, one, collaborate with not-for-profit organizations, non-governmental, and activists to combat violence against women? We know the numbers, it's an uneven playing ground. But what is it that, as media, you could do better?
I think that's a really good question, because there are things that media are doing. I just think that they need to increase the percentage of organizations that can jump into these kind of programs. For example, like, it's very difficult to buy media space because it's very expensive. I'm talking about commercials within radio or television, and even just posters inside news magazines and newspapers. It's expensive. However, for organizations like nonprofit organizations or that have social initiatives, though, the rates are lowered. So that's good. I think that they should be lowered to a 20% of what they actually are, so they have more chances of actually reaching prime time and reaching more people. There is also another thing, that it's protecting spaces within the schedule to feature only and exclusively content that is going to educate, right? And it's going to bring awareness to the proper way that we should be seeing the world, or the proper way that we should be understanding some subjects, right? So that's another thing that is being done. But again, when we think about the grid, the schedule, then we're thinking that they're not these spaces that are exclusively for this kind of initiatives that pretty much end up being given to this organization that have social initiatives trying to protect women against violence and children and girls. They don't represent even 1% of the grid. So I think that the initiatives are there. What can we do is to get us, and I don't think this is actually something that media should do. I think that humanity, society, is the one who has to pressure media to lower even more the rates for these organizations. The community is the one that has to stand up and say out loud, we need more spaces like this, not just 0.7% of what you're giving to the grid. We need 5%, 20%, because media can do that, but it needs the pressure of the masses. Otherwise, it's not going to make the change. Why? Because money, it's heavier. The private sector has a lot of power, money has power, but society has power. So I don't think that right now what we need, that media has to do something. Media just need pressure, and that pressure has to come from the community.
I love that. The pressure has to come from the community, the people. So the people matter, because without the people, there's no stories, isn't it? I stand to be corrected. I stand to be corrected.
100%. No, you don't need to be corrected. There is no stories. Like, everything that we are telling, all the stories are coming from inspiration of the real life. And real life is community. Real life is human. It's you, me, it's Farie, it's Roomby, it's Monica, it's all of us, right? So, and our children and our pets and our communities and our parents and our men, is people the one that actually is inspiring pretty much every single thing that we are reporting. Everything that we are reporting has behind a face. Like Farie was saying, these faces, many of them don't want to be seen. But the thing is that face, is that name the one that is inspiring this article, right? So you don't need to be corrected. I stand with you. It's people the one that matters. That's why people is the one that has to raise and pressure media, because media has the capacity. But the ones that are pressuring right now are the big corporations and the money makers. That is not how it works. If society understands that if you stop buying, their power is faded, then society is going to understand the real power. All these organizations, Procter & Gamble, why do they have 250 million per semester? Because we are buying. If we stop buying, then we have the power. And we understand that, then we can pressure media saying we want something else. We don't want shampoo.
Wow, I love that. We have the power as a people, as the masses. We have the power to transform and reinvent the trajectory of where media is going. So as I move on to my next panelist, Roomby, how can social media platforms be used to combat violence against women and girls? How can we use the social media platforms? Because we all know, this morning, I think I shared something that I found was phenomenal when it came to an assessment of what social media, the world that we are living in, the spaces that we're in. And we've got our young girls, even young boys, going through cyberbullying, being victimized online. We've seen children take their lives. And yet we are still not doing enough to combat that. So what is it, as a personnel in journalism and radio, in media, what's your take when it comes to how social media platforms can be used to combat violence against women and girls, men and boys? What is it that could be done? Because you did say earlier on, we are misusing some of these platforms. So what can we do better?
All right. Thank you so much for that brilliant question. Yes, social media has got a lot of advantages as it is now accessible to, the youths and so many people that can now access social media, which is a good thing because it brings you closer. It brings you to, under one roof to talk about issues from. We couldn't be having this Zoom meeting if it wasn't for social media, if it weren't for technology. So we actually have an appreciation of it. So yeah, social media can be used because it's an innovative way of engaging audiences and promoting action against gender-based violence. For instance, we may say that use social media campaigns, that we have got podcasts, or even documentaries that can actually raise awareness and mobilize support. So what we need to do is that we make use of these social media platforms. If you are a media house, or even if you're an activist, you're a nonprofit organization, if you have a presence on social media, it will actually help as well get people to follow your page, or even boost your page, promote it, sponsor adverts that you want to reach a wider audience, have a target audience all the time, so that the messaging actually goes to the right people, and using the right channel as well. You can't say that you want to talk to somebody who is in the rural area and probably opt for social media at the present moment, because those people, most of them, especially in Africa, they do not have access to such resources as yet. Their mobile phones, they are just mobile phones that can actually make a call and receive SMSs, and they are not on Facebook, they are not on LinkedIn, they don't even know about Zoom. So that's why I'm talking about making use of the right channel to reach audiences. It's important. So that's another thing that people actually miss. They can actually have a message for targeted at people in the rural area, and then they make use of social media, forgetting that, we've got people in rural communities. That's why nowadays we have, especially in Zimbabwe, nowadays we have community radio stations that that's there are a lot of that are being commissioned, a lot of community radio stations that actually speak in that particular language that people actually in that area can relate to, not making use of English only, but simplifying the language and making use of the language that people can understand better. So we're saying that we need more conversations that are in several local languages to make people understand as well. And digital media can also be used because if you post something on social media, it will stay there forever unless you delete, probably. But if people get to share, it will always be there. So you'll find that if your story is shared today, and even 10 years later, people can still visit that story and learn more about that story. It has a way of keeping information, which is a good thing. If it's good information, yes, that's all right. And the internet doesn't forget most of the time. So we can make use of social media to reach out to certain audiences and also have conversations like these ones that we're having via Zoom, via meetings, via any other application that we can use for virtual meetings to connect with people who are also beyond the borders, because we also need to learn from one another. We also need to learn from various countries and various people. How are we winning how are we actually managing to tackle such issues? Because if you look at your country only and limit it probably to Southern Africa, I think you won't be doing justice to this problem of GBV. But if you learn from people like you're in Canada, some are in Nigeria, some are in Indonesia, and a lot of stories are being shared, probably a thing or two that is shared can actually assist us in terms of knowing how to talk about it. And also it influences it encourages people to create dialogue, to have dialogues. Talking about these issues all the time. It's something that wasn't done before. You'd wait to write letters or email, which may take time for people even to respond. But nowadays, if you just say, can we have a meeting? Then, in the afternoon or in the evening, you'll be having a meeting. Before you know it, you'll be engaging with quite wide audiences as well. So I was also talking about being able to make use of podcasts. They actually help as well. They help amplify voices, and they help activists to also share information. We've got news online that can also be shared, because gone are the days when we used to use traditional papers only, but now we can also, their stories are being shared online as well. So for activists and for media houses, we can take up on these stories and make sure that the people can actually be featured on opinion pieces. We can have interviews or guest editorials as well from activists and actually advocates. They need to be given that opportunity. They need to be given that space to communicate and, invite experts in studio without even asking for money. Yes, if you ask for advertisers, you can ask for adverts from other companies probably that are trying to sponsor, probably Coca-Cola. Sponsoring that initiative is okay. But to say there's somebody who is coming through and saying that I am an expert in this field, I need to share knowledge, and they say, you need to pay for that knowledge. Yet we know that there's a global crisis, and the world has joined hands in commemorating 16 days of activism against GBV. And you don't have money to go out there and talk about it. It's also challenging. I'll also talk about the campaign that I hosted over the weekend, the campaign that I actually designed. For me, I actually saw a gap in the market in terms of probably how people who meet for a certain purpose are not even engaging in such initiatives. We have people in Stockville, with people probably that play rugby. It's high time we have so many groups of people who are not even in those activities, who are not non-governmental organizations, coming together for a social cause, coming together for one purpose, to unite in actually advocating for change. And I hosted the Land Rover Community Club, a triple campaign for GBV, drug and substance abuse, and also holiday safety driving. So as we were roaming around the streets, it was, striking a lot of attention. People were interested to say, People are not meeting to just drink beer and they're partying along, but, they're doing it for the society, which is actually a good thing. And, if people get inspired through that, I think even a lot of people will come on board. I also saw in South Africa on Sunday, I think the Smotepe Foundation, they actually paid for space on TV, I think for about 5 hours. Churches were united in the grounds. They were I think millions, I can say, of people who actually attended that 16 days of activism against GBV campaign. Churches were united together to pray about GBV. So that was a great thing. But one thing I also didn't like was that, like I was saying, training and gathering your facts and also being trained to talk about that. We had from just 16 days of activism, they're talking about their churches, blah, blah, but yet you're united for this purpose of praying and talking about GBV. So training is also needed. I think people need to make use of communicators in such fields to deliver that message. And if they don't want them to deliver that message, they should get proper training. Thank you.
Wow, so much. And we want to say well done for that triple campaign. You actually designed it, and that's kudos to you. Great job. I had a snippet of it. And it's another way that you're using the platform and media in a very positive and educative way. And these are ways we can also learn from. We can learn from that. And I'm going to jump on to Farie. I have a two-part question. Then Violet, I'm going to come to you after Farie. So taking from where Roomby left off, in terms of campaigns. So can media campaigns, Farie, from your experience, can media campaigns reduce incidents of violence against women and girls? If so, how? And my second part, what innovative approaches can media use to educate audiences on gender equality and prevention of violence? Again,
right.
being a journalist, and I thank you again for sharing your story. So we are saying experience there matters. You're
That's
in
true.
the field. And what's your take?
All right. On the first question, or should I think the best way is I'm going to just fuse them together. So when it comes to us as journalists, we play the biggest role. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to the community. And the community is the one that gives the bigger push. And then we are the more of the voices. We hold the amplifiers. But we're not just saying, oh, guys, stop gender-based violence and all that, stop the bullying, stop the victimization and all that. It still comes down to the policy changing. If people know that the law is against certain things, people will not actually do it. And when it comes to issues to do with child marriages, there was a time there was a whole campaign about child marriages in Zimbabwe. Then there was a whole big campaign about it, and I was also part of it. That was the turning point for me to share my story and also get my healing. And that was when my foundation was birthed. So during that time, I was happy to know that a policy was changed because of that. I saw a lot of girls under the age of even 9, or should we say under the age of 15, as young as 9, getting pregnant because of in the name of religion and in the name of sexual dalliance. And all that just happens in the African culture. And with all that, I was happy that there was that push, not just from the media, but also from the community itself. The media did play a bigger role, of course, by writing more than enough articles about it, talking about it on radio, removing the shame from all of it. And we always walk around with shame because something is happening. So that shame is the thing that makes us, get in our little shells and not amplify our voices. But if community says this is bad, it is bad. There's no two ways about it. And then the media takes it up and say, okay, we get it. We do have our ethics. Sometimes it is good to put your ethics aside. Sometimes in most cases, it's bad to put your ethics aside. But in this case, certain ethics were put aside and say, listen, we are women. This can be my sister. This can be my niece. This can be my relative. but then they're being put in this position. So what do I do as a person to really get this message across? It was no longer about, oh my gosh, I need to get the most likes and all that. People were feeling for a 14-year-old that was heavily pregnant, and then she gets killed at a shrine, and her baby is now left without a mother. And for some funny reason, the perpetrator who made the girl pregnant is nowhere to be seen, but the girl is the one that is making all those waves, and it's really sad. Nobody talks about the one that actually raped this poor child and got her pregnant. Everyone is talking about what happened and how she died and her baby, and that was just about it. And it was a very sad story. So everybody was now saddened and took sympathy, and that's how people joined together. And then policies had to change, which was great, and I was happy about that. Then I noticed something when it comes to us as media people. We like to run with the hype of the time. For example, it's the 16 days of activism. We talk about it, we hype it up, and when it dies down, we look aside, what's next? Yet it's supposed to be an ongoing message over and over again. It has to be drilled in a person. It has to be known that this is not right. And if somebody knows that this is not right, they will know that, at the back of their heads, it's not even going to be at the back of their heads. They will know over and over again that this is actually not right. And I need to be straight. I can't be a person that's going to think that I'm going to get away with murder. Everybody knows that if you kill somebody, you're going to go to prison. It's known. But what about when you abuse somebody, when you sexually harass somebody, when you rape somebody? What exactly is going to happen? You need to know the consequence of your actions. Those 16 days of the orange days are supposed to be every day. It's supposed to be orange every single day. It's not supposed to be limited to those 16 days. Yes, the 16 days they will really amplify and really push. And most organizations are not as 100% sincere, which makes it very hard also for the media personnel to really push for the voice of the victims and also the people that are really trying to push for this cause. Others are in it for the money. Others are in it just to be seen that they're doing something for just those 16 days, and that's just about it. They look at it as, oh, well, I'm a bit bored. I need to get some money. I need to attract someone. So let me just have an organization and attract certain people. It's not something that's coming from their hearts. And it's not coming from a victim's side. Or should we say a victor's side? I can't talk about people being victims all the time. They have to be victors. And with that, the victors are able to carry all that energy and then drive it into the community that, listen, this happened to me and I want ABCD to happen. That's where the media plays the bigger role of taking that person, becoming the role model to stand up in front of the victims so that they become the victors. With my campaign for 16 days of activism, I took my time to work on more of putting the message out there, and for people to understand what gender-based violence is about and what it is. People think gender-based violence is the beating, the emotional abuse, the physical. It's more of the physical abuse, and this is just about it. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes when it comes to gender-based violence. When someone says gender-based violence, oh yeah, okay, it's called woman-based violence. So what's the point in me to join hands with those women? But the media needs to really clarify, like really remove that smoke on the mirror for someone to really see that it is not just about the woman. It's not just about the child. It's not just about a girl only. What about you, the perpetrator? What is it that you can do also to stop yourself? Because even we women were also part of that gender-based violence, woman to woman. It actually does happen. And it also comes to woman to man as well. But we always run away from the fact that there's always two sides to a coin. There's always two sides to a story. And then the mental health aspect when it comes to gender-based violence, looking at the perpetrator themselves, what is it that they're doing? Can you identify somebody who is going to be a perpetrator before they become a perpetrator? Can you identify a person that has already been abused, but they're hiding it? How best can you approach a person like that? Those are the things that I'm really working on. We're now removing the curtain and the focus mainly on the victim, the victim, the victim. Now we're looking at the one who is doing it to the victim. And what are we doing about that person? Mental health wise, I mean, look, that was like the Men's Month. And of course, we women, we always claim every month to be our month. I mean, it is always our month for us to speak out. We always talk. Yeah. So yeah, pretty much that. And then when it comes to innovative approaches to the gender equalities, how best can we do it? It has to start with us. Everything starts with you. The person is looking back at you in the mirror. What are you doing? How are you pushing to make the message known? How are you pushing to make this better? How are you treating your own children? How are you treating the next person over and over again? Because it's about cycle breaking. And for those cycles to break, it starts with one person. Yes, you can come up with ways of really talking about it, screaming about it and all that, but are you the one who's starting? So I think innovation starts with you, the person. The person is looking back at the mirror. When you look at you, the way your father treated you, the man that treated you, you become the one that protects your children, that protects the girl child as well. And say, I will not want the girl child to go through what I went through. So I take this step and also fight back. That's how it all starts. So I think, I hope I did answer you there, Maria.
Yes, you did. Well answered. Well answered again. Look, I've got my pen right here, and I'm old school, so I take down notes, and I had so much that I had to take right there. There was so much to unpack and well put across. It's been amazing. So with Violet, you are on the ground. You are on the ground. You Again, with Violet, she plays both roles, being an activist, being a feminist, being a leader. She's often in touch with media, many times than we can count. She has sat in panels. So, having heard from journalists, television personalities, radio personalities, Violet, do you feel that there is enough coverage, whether it's on radio, TV, in the newspapers, regarding the stories of not, and I'm going to take that from from Farie, who said we should no longer call them victims, the victors, the survivors. Do you feel there's enough stories shared and talked about the victims, survivors of gender-based violence? And secondly, outside and above, as you raised your point earlier, that journalists and media personnel, they're human beings. Catalina reminded us that it is the responsibility of the communities, the people, who will be able to put pressure on the media. Now, as you sit in the hot seat, Violet, what is your take when it comes to sharing of stories being said out in the media? Is the media doing enough? Are they actually serving the women that have been affected and impacted, or they actually protecting the perpetrators?
Maria, thanks once more. I think media is doing a lot, but at the same time, there is a lot that need to be done. Because looking at the data on violence against women and girls, there is 3 out of 5 women have experienced violence. And most of the time, this is not reported. And even as who are on the ground, the defilement, the gender-based violence we are reporting, they are just, I don't think if they are even a quarter of what is happening on the ground. And out of that, just a small portion maybe, the media will take from that maybe 1 or 2 cases. That means what is happening in the society is a whole lot that is not reported. There is fear, there is silencing, there is confusion. Where should I go? Who? There is even intimidation. So you find what is reported is not even a quarter of what is happening. That means there is a lot that is happening in terms of gender-based violence happening on the ground, but not being reported. Even sometimes we go in chiefs' offices. Even in our offices, we have we could be having per month like 10 cases. But you go to the chief, what the chief has, maybe he'll say, this month I haven't received any case. Even in the hospital, the other month we were having a meeting with medics. What is reported and what is in the ground is totally different statistics, which means there is a lot we need to do, even to empower our people on the ground, just like I think Farie mentioned about it. We, the people, it starts with us. If that media person will not find information from me, from that victor, from that person who was on the ground to say what this is and to stand for that victim, then even the journalists will miss out the point on what to report. So it starts, it starts with us, with the people, that we need to give the information and stop hiding it. The community need a lot of sensitization. And I don't know if it was Catalina or one of us mentioned about narrowing it down to telling the community what is gender-based violence. We tend to think it's just beating or the emotional violence. And I'm glad to report on Thursday we are having in Kakamega here, most of the perpetrators that are alleged to be public motorcycle riders. And on Thursday we are having, I'm sure I have seen my team is on board here, we are having a sensitization session with the people at the market, the women and men, even the motorcycle, the public motorcycle riders, who are young people, and the teenage pregnancy that we are witnessing every day. You will handle that case, is a border rider, is a border left, right. So they need sensitization. If we don't tell them, they are not aware. Sometimes we may think that they know, but they are not aware that this is a wrong thing they are doing. They'll continue to do. For now, we have long holidays here. What are we doing? We need to go in the community and tell them, look here. And it doesn't end with the 16 days, just as one of our sisters has mentioned. So there is a lot we need to do. The media is doing some work, but is not doing enough. It needs to dig deep to go beyond the victimization, the threats they are facing, and just go deep and report what is there. Sometimes I have to say that you will report a case and it will not be featured because someone paid, just like I've mentioned. So you find there are a lot of pending cases. So we need to speak out, and media play a big role. And just as I started by saying, it's a double-edged sword. It has a good side and a bad side. The good side, we need to use it for sensitization, for awareness creation, for advocacy, for the online petition, to push for policies to our leaders, the hashtags. Today we are here. Maria is, I don't know where I'm in the other world. But look, we are here on the global bench, as I call it, a small village, but we are here together talking about the same agenda, the same cause. We want to see a society of just equality and equity. So we need to come together and go back to the community and train them. And I'll use the example of, I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, you saw what Kenya did, especially the Gen Zs, the young people using the social media, the power of social media, and they were using the hashtag with the people. So the power remains with us. And the same way, the power still remains with us, the journalists, the people, the people, the activists, the civil, those with the maybe working in the NGOs. We need to go back, because it's our work, but it's not one person work. We need to come together so that it can be a collective responsibility, that we can simplify this language of gender-based violence to our people, to tell them this. And sometimes we go to the community and there are things that happen and they are like normal to them that it's not any gender-based violence. It's normal, but we need to tell them, look, this is not the way to go. And there is, for us, for instance, at WAPA, we are using what we call GALS, Gender Action Learning System. We have to bring men and women together to tell them, look, try this, work as partners and see, let's see by 1 month, what is the result from what you have been working separately, beating your woman every day, and see which way to go. So the media has a lot to do. They have the power. And if only they can use the gender-sensitive and transformative contents to break the gender stereotypes, ensuring that we leave no one behind. And even in presenting news, and even the advertisement, as we have mentioned, sometimes we look at advertisement, the advertisement where a man is involved and a different advertisement that involves a woman, they are totally different. For us, a woman will be even half naked, but the other one is full, like in a suit or something. So what are we trying to portray out there to the public as journalists? We need to work, to rethink, to learn, relearn and learn, and ensure that we put things in order to ensure we are educating and not exposing the victims.
Wow, well said. Thank you, Violet. Thank you. Thank you. That was so informative. And, you know, as we get, just before we get to the final question, and where you give me your closing remarks, the panelists, I'll come back to Catalina. I'll start back with you as I share the baton. You know, we spoke about so many things today during the discussion. We looked at media as a catalyst for change. We looked at the role of the media, that it's a tool for advocacy. We looked at it as a tool for empowering, but in a positive way, empowering. And because one of the challenges we asked was whether it's actually empowering the perpetrators and letting down the victims and breaking the silence, that it's time we speak out, and that we need to put the pressure, we the people have to put the pressure on the media, and how media platforms can empower survivors, and how media itself can be social media activism in a positive way, where it will leverage, where we can leverage digital platforms to combat sexual gender-based violence. We unpacked all that in the last 60 minutes. So before I let you go, ladies, I would like you, as an expert, as a leader, as an activist, a feminist, an advocate, what would be your parting words? Everything said and done, what we unpacked today. What would be your closing remarks when it comes to media and the role that it plays? What's your take, Catalina? What are you pressing on? What is your call to action?
You know what? I think that the last thing that you said is the best. What is my call to action? And I think that just putting that question outside would be a trigger for action. So my call to action would be to ask the question, what is your call to action to everyone who is involved in the process of media impacting or supporting or not supporting gender violence? So whenever we as media are interacting with advertisers, or if we are interacting with the perpetrator, or if we are interacting with the victim. And actually, I love the victor part, so I'm going to take that one too. If we are interacting with our bosses, with the owners of the media, whoever we're interacting with, I think that we can ask them a question that is going to make them really trying to think about being coherent. Because in general, what I discovered throughout this conversation is that we are doing our part, but our hands are tied. We are trying on one side, but then things are being destroyed with the other hand. So we are in a very tight spot in which we're doing our best, but also we have many things pretty much destroying or blocking much of the work that we're trying to do. And I'm talking from every perspective of media as the outlet, media as the journalist, media as the advertiser, right? So if when we are in conversations with anyone who is in part of the equipment that media means, and if we ask them, like, what is your call to action? Is it being coherent with what we actually believe? Is what you're doing, is your call to action responding to protecting children, to protecting women, to protecting the way that we have been portraying and enticing in some way violence for so long. What's your call to action? If you ask them, maybe at that second, they're going to discover, yes, I can't publish this thing, or I can't do this because it's not coherent. I am doing exactly the opposite of what I am saying. So asking, what's your call to action with this thing that you're about to put out to the rest of the world or to the community? At least it's going to make them stop for a second, look for the answer. And if they are conscious enough, nice humans enough, not corrupted enough, we are going to be able to stop many things that are stopping our journey to change.
I love that. I just got a kick out of that. If they are conscious enough, if they are woke enough, but the responsibility, which is what I'm taking to everybody right now. To the next panelist, what is your call to action? Roomby, what is your call to action?
All right. Thank you so much for a wonderful meeting. And of course, it's been an interesting conversations, people sharing nuggets, people sharing insights that, we can actually digest all the information that was said today and apply it in our lives. For me, the call to action is to go out there and do more. Like Farie rightfully said, that change begins with me, it begins with you, and it begins with all of us. A famous quote by former Vice President of Zimbabwe, I used to say that a lot. And I think it's vital for sure for everybody to take a role in everything. So what I would also want to say is that, yes, we are passionate about, amplifying voices. We're passionate about reporting such issues. Some of us, we are here not just as journalists, but also as activists. So we are wearing two hats at the same time, which acts as an added advantage if we are in a position to receive funding, for example, to get funding. I think if we get funding, we can actually do more, because right now it's resources that restrict us. But you can actually tell, and you can actually see from the results that, this person is passionate about something. This person has actually done her best without even any sponsorship that you would have actually received. But use your knowledge, use what you can to make things happen. So I think it's high time we also, like, society or even interested parties or organizations, be it from Zimbabwe or abroad, get to identify real people, real talented people who need to push this initiative further. Like I'm saying, we have whenever something happens, a budget can be set up for the government or for organizations. They go to Victoria Falls, they spend a week, having luxury, just spending money, eating and all. After that, no result at all. It's just training programs, but nothing is really being done. So like they were saying that the summer they in it for money, but we've got people who are passionate about it. So I think it's a matter of funding that we actually need. I think I've seen also, I'm glad that Farie is here. She's also has her own foundation, a Pink and Purple foundation, which is actually also doing a lot in terms of educating people, having such conversations. So I think it's really resources and funding that actually limits us to do better. But over and above that, we can do more. And we have got the voices. We've got we are thirsty. We are hungry to do more. Thank you.
I like that. We are thirsty. You are hungry to do more. And above that, with little resources. And I think just taking note of when I think of World Pulse Sisters, it's where women are doing so much more with very little resources. But Farie, what is going to be your call to action?
My call to action is keep on keeping. Like, color me orange, but don't leave me orange. Just color me orange, but don't leave me orange. Because my action is, we need to keep on keeping. We need to keep on pushing, regardless to the obstacles we're going to be facing, regardless to the challenges we're going to face. And there's going to be a lot of resistance, not just from the victors, but it's going to be mainly on the government side, because they're the ones that, you know, push the policies that okay certain things, but then we still need to continue being colored orange regardless. Regardless. So that pushing and that
orange. Yes.
Colored orange, Maria. And also being sincere with our work, and you know, coming together with the right people, holding hands with the right people, and making sure that if we keep on holding on to each other, it creates a very strong wall that even if the wind goes up, down, whatever direction, we're still moving for one cause, and we're still pushing for one cause. And of which Roomby did touch on the issue of the fact that most of us are doing it for passion, because we want to see a change in the world. Then there's the whole limitations that keep coming, you know, over and over again. But regardless of the limitations, because of passion, because of love, because you so badly want something to happen, you keep holding on and you keep on keeping, and you still continue to color the world orange, regardless to whatever time of the year it is, month it is, day it is. You just continue being colored orange.
Oh, wow. I love that. I love that, because that's a huge reminder that it's not, we should not wait until November, from November 25th to December 10th, but every day, if you didn't know, should be activism against violence, any form of violence against women and girls.
True.
And also men and boys. So I want us to know that every day should be an act of activism, every single day. So yes, let's color the world orange until we're going to leave it orange, so that is a staunch reminder every single day. So Violet, what is your call to action? I know you told us about the upcoming event, but what is your call to action? And I'm giving you 2 minutes, and then I'm going to move on to Caleb and the men champions. They have something that they want to add before we close off. And I was not ignoring you. I saw that, and we're going to come back to you guys, and you're going to share. You're part of us, and we appreciate your contributions. Your voices matter. So Violet, in 2 minutes, under 2 minutes, what is your call to action?
Thank you. The power belongs to us, and us, the people. And there is struggles on the way, but we were called. This is a call that we are called, and we said yes to it. So there are going to be challenges. We are going to stumble, but together, just like we are here today, we can make it happen. The thirst that we are having today, me and you, just like Roomby mentioned, the society that we want to see, it starts with us going back to the community, helping them learn, relearn, and unlearn, to make them understand the aspect of gender-based violence, so that together we can achieve a society of justice and equality. And it does not happen in isolation. We have to realize that together, for it to happen, we must come together as a people, as a person of this universe, of this global village, just like we are here today, to make it happen. So with the media, with wherever we are, with whatever we have, big or small, we can still make our dream come to reality. And we have mentioned it doesn't end or start with these 16 days of activism. The journey is still on. It's a pilgrimage journey of hope, of what we are craving for. I am not together, we will achieve it. So thank you so much. And together we can make it a reality. We are still dreaming. We will be there. Thank you.
And if we reality is never born. There's no hope without a dream. So we have to continue dreaming, and we have to dream big and let those dreams scare us, because yes, there will be a day that the young girl that we are fighting for will be seen as an equal in this world, and she will be called by her name and not by the way she looks. So, gentlemen, you've been dying to share. So I'm going to start with Caleb, and then I'll move to my men champions. So Caleb, what's your take? Because I heard you say there men have to be also participating, and and candidly, Monica put it out there that we do have candid conversations with men. So you're most welcome, my brother, to be part of the Men Champions. We welcome you. So take it away. What's your take when it comes to media? I don't know if Caleb can hear me or he's there to give his views, his thoughts. Okay. Missed opportunity. So I'm going to go to the Men Champions because you did say you have something to say. And I'm going to say, before we wrap it up, yes, Men Champions, what's your take when it comes to media? And are there any other questions that maybe you wanted to have those addressed to our panelists before they go? So take it away, Men Champions. I'm giving you 2.5 to 3 minutes.
I'm Bishop Isaac Amunga. I'm from Men Champion, Kenya. I'm humbled today. I've been learning, and we as men, we are benefiting. Today, as we have been looking for at the social media as a catalyst, I have a question I wanted to put forward. We on the ground, we have got so many gathering events, forums, but we find it sometimes hard to access media because wherever we call upon them, they ask for transport. And it has been so hard for us to access them.
Thank you so much. So you're saying that you've experienced difficulties in accessing media, and I'm just going to throw it to Violet to give an insight on that, because Violet, who's also in Kakamega, she seems to have access to media platforms, media houses. So what has worked for you, Violet, that probably Men Champions could use?
Yeah, thank you. I think is about forming that friendship with them, and also they have to see your work. And I think sometimes we also post, and at this moment for us as speaker, as swapper, you realize they are the one looking for us, not us looking for them. And it's about what you are doing. And sometimes to just have the contact, you reach out. In this activity, most of the time we invite them. Make sure you interact with them, tell them of your upcoming event, because they also have a duty to go back in the studio with the news. So if you can't reach them, maybe they are not aware you are having activities. Good to have contact, and maybe you can reach out to us or to me. I know if you are with Charles, if you find Charles, you have found me. So yeah, it's just having I can say it's just the interaction, the friendship we form, because they are also on the same course. Just as one of our sister mentioned, they are journalists and some of them are activists. So if they are able to know you are having this activity, when and where, I'm sure they cannot miss. So just have the contacts or reach out for the contacts that we have. They'll always be reaching out. You don't have these activities, this period is girl child period. What are you aspiring to do next week? So they will always be on your neck for the news. And even in studios, I think here we have West TV, Nyota, which are our local TV stations, and it's easy to reach to them. And on Wednesday they are having the sessions to talk about women and girls empowerment, which we can leverage. So let's partner, let's get in touch. We will help each other to get the media people.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And just before we close off, I just want to take once again, as we all spoke about today, the media plays a crucial role in combating sexual and gender-based violence by raising awareness, advocating for justice, and shaping societal attitudes. We all have a role to play. We have a social responsibility. You and I. It's
Maria,
not a
we are
hope
not
for
through.
her global thing. Neither is it a men champions thing. It's not a Roomby thing. Neither is it a Farie thing or Catalina or Violet or Tamrak, World Pulse or Avin. We all have a responsibility. We are part of the people. And Catalina reminded us it's masses that will help push the agenda. We have a responsibility as humanity to push the agenda if we are to see change. But once again, thank you to all my panelists today. You've been great. And Roomby, thank you. You made us meet Farie, who was awesome. Thank you, Farie. We appreciate you. Catalina, she's no stranger. She's part of the Hope for Her family. And Violet, you've been with us 5 years and we're counting. Who could have said? But she's also part of the Hope for Her family. Tamrak, we appreciate you and more. And Avin, you've been joining every day. And I see my sister Harriet Nangila. Welcome and thank you for being part of this discussion. We learned so much. And I'll leave it to Mamacita to give us the closing. And pardon me, I'm the only one allowed to call her Mamacita. Her name is Monica. Her name is Monica. I just had to put that disclaimer because lest everybody calls you Mamacita. Her name is Monica Arango. Right. And we've been doing this work for over 10 years plus, and we're counting. But who's counting? We love what we do. So I'll turn over to Mamacita, Monica
Maria, Charles, you forgot about Sir Charles.
Oh, I am so sorry. I thought Amunga had said for men champions. Sorry, Uncle Charles. I beg your pardon.
Well, thank you so much. I think this is a very important discussion, and we are so much excited. However, the media issue, in Kenya, we need a lot of prayers because the issue of corruption has made things very difficult, and it is not leaving us out. When it comes to the rural communities, Violet understands. If there is a function within the county, you will not see the media people, even if you are having a function, because they are used to brown envelopes. So this is something that we cannot run away from. The issue of corruption has really messed us, including our media team. So the issue is we need to collaborate. Of course, they are so pertinent to the issue of gender-based violence. But when the governor has a meeting or any politician,
I don't know if we missed Charles.
You will rarely see this staff beaten every day, every night. So today I was looking for gender-based violence deaths. And I found out that the people we are looking for are policemen, because they are the ones who have been trained to have one of them to be as a gender-based violence officer. However, I had to take another extra step to talk to their boss, that is the DCC, who invited now this lady so that they can go discuss and see the way forward, how they are going to help her. Because the lady is also worried, she has children, but this man beats her every night. So she feels that if she reports her, then there will be some family issues, but maybe she could be sent away. Now the media that we need to raise these issues to, at times they are so friendly, at times they are not. So as Violet said, it's true when you befriend them and you don't befriend them with empty pockets. So one of the sisters said the finances are key. because all the media people, if they come around, they come maybe driving, and for sure we can't call it is a bribe, but it's appreciating for their fuel. So I just wanted to input that, and also the biggest enemy is our community parents. Because a child is raped, when you take a step, the parents refuse even to go and give evidence. So we are really having challenges within the rural. Maybe when you are in town, Violet is a little bit in town than me. So in the rural, we have issues that we believe we need consultative prayers, and I'm sure we are making some efforts as we continue to sensitize the community and even the entire women, so that the women should stand on foot and defend their rights without fear. So thank you, because I know time is gone. We shall share more next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Uncle Charles. And you are right. But you are doing a job, in my point of view. Media is not just TV, internet, and all of that. It's a network as well that you have. And when the men talk, it's a different one. When the men talk with the men, they're gonna hear in a different way that when the woman talk. And there is the interesting group that you have right now on the network. Remember, I always talk about the multiplication, the hero makers. And you have a hero makers on the go. Everybody that is still talking and doing network, because we know rural areas are different, and totally agree with what you said. But you have a network. And that network is going to be who is going to help to spread the poison. Yeah, I agree as well. What it is, the media is not much interested in the rural areas because it's no money there. And they are against the work or the feeling. They are for money. That is what they are against. So we cannot do nothing about right now. We can still spread and talking with the media, knocking doors, and still with the hero maker. We can do what we can do, and we can multiply with the hero makers. You are doing a hero makers there. Don't put them down on we cannot do it. We have to go up and continue with that. That is my take. Remember, please, my survey, we believe that we are together, and that is why we are doing these surveys. That is why we are doing the recordings and put it in our channel. Go to the channel, share, like, subscribe to the channel. That way you're going to see the new videos and the new things that we have there. That is the media. That is how we can multiply. If the people start to hear this, if the women that are out there feeling that they are by themselves, and they start to see that it's more people like her or like him, because it's a man as well that are under gender-based violence in so many places on the world. So is what we, each one of us, can do. One woman, one girl at a time. Don't stop. Continue to do it. That's it, Maria.
Thank you, Mamacita. And we just want to remind everybody that tomorrow will be day 10. Can you imagine? We're counting. So tomorrow we look at fight or flight, where we have two presenters, Elizabeth Lai from Canada, Calgary, Canada. And we also have Chance Ford from South Africa. She'll be joining us from Johannesburg, South Africa, as we look at fight or flight in terms of safety. the 4 keys to personal safety, exploring the various ways to continue to keep ourselves safe, understanding fight or flight, harnessing natural defense mechanisms for recovery and resilience, and we will touch on self-defense. So if you have time out of your busy schedule, don't forget to join us and tune in tomorrow. And again, our videos, the recordings we do share with you, we ask you to share. Sharing is caring. If you care enough for the cause, you will share. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, because this is the only way we can multiply, like Mamacita said. And your voice matters. But we want more voices to be able to amplify their stories. And you and I have the honors to be part of that change. You are hope. You are sustainable hope. And if you can give hope to one girl, one woman, one boy, one man, one community, then your job is done. We want to thank you. Merci beaucoup. Mucho gracias. Asante sana. Majita henyu siabonga zikomo. We'll see you tomorrow. Hasta mañana.
Karibu.
Karibu.